So, yet again, Microsoft just announced prices going up again for the Xbox Series consoles, literally not even 4 months later. They're doing it again. The Xbox prices are going up, and honestly, I think that with these prices going up and with the new prices that the Series S and X are currently, is a bit way too far. I even still think that the first time, like 3.5, almost 4 months ago, was also pretty darn stupid, but this is actually even more stupid. But there's reports, including from an insider, that actually mention that it is due to the tariffs. So honestly, I really just think it's still kind of stupid at the end of the day, because really at the end of the day, as long as they get subscriptions with Game Pass and freaking game sales and whatnot, I mean, Microsoft has already made trillions of dollars in the last few years and whatnot. They are been making lots and lots of money. I personally think that this is actually the most stupidest thing ever with any console out there. We're literally 5 years. 5 years. This November, the Series X, PS5 will be 5 years old. I think it's pretty darn stupid with the current gen systems just constantly going up. And the console's not been getting any better. There's no new enhanced system. Yes, the PlayStation 5 Pro being priced at $700 when it came out late last year was a little bit somewhat of an understanding, even though it still was a little bit too pricey. But you was definitely getting a much better console with better specs and a 2 terabyte of storage, even though I know that Sony should have included the disk drive with it. But at the end of the day, you were still getting a much better console that can play games better, that also had more storage, more than double the storage from the base launch PS5s. So really at the end of the day, it was still a much better deal. And even with its price increase, it is still a better deal than what Microsoft just did with the Xbox Series consoles. But let's go on ahead and let's show you what Microsoft has raising the prices of the Series S's and X's to right now. And here are the prices for the Xbox Series consoles. So here are the Xbox price increases going from. So we're going to start off with the Series S. It is going from $379.99 to $399.99. And then the 1 terabyte, it was reported originally that the 1 terabyte was going up to $500, but I think Microsoft reversed it right now. But it's still ridiculous at the end of the day. So the 1 terabyte Series S is going from $430 to $450. So you're almost paying for practically what the Series X first came out in 2020. You're basically almost paying that price for a Series S 1 terabyte. And then here's where things get even more worse. So the Series X Digital White Edition is going from $550 to $600, and then the disc drive original is going from $600 to $650. That is an insane. And then this is the worst part of it, minus this too, the regular Series X going to $650. That's still pretty bad, but this is the worst one of it. So the Series X limited edition Galaxy 2 terabyte is going from $730 to $800. And then as you can see right here, a $20 increase for both of the Series S models, a $50 increase for both the Series X digital and disc drive, and then a whopping $70 for the Series X 2 terabyte edition. So, really, at the end of the day, it's just not looking very good right now, at least when it comes to Microsoft with the Xbox consoles. Now, sure, even with PlayStation, with the $50 price increase that they have actually did with the PlayStation 5 last month, PlayStation, I think, is like kind of okay in a healthy position, especially with the amount of units that the PlayStation 5 has sold. But if Sony actually ends up following suit, which I believe that they're going to, and most likely the Nintendo Switch 2, which on one of our previous videos that we did recently, I do think that the Nintendo Switch 2 is also going to go up in price, and I think sometime next year in 2026, after they get through this holiday season. But Microsoft right now, with that new price increase, and they have stated that the prices will begin, those new prices, on October 3rd, in just a short couple more weeks. So Microsoft pretty much just literally shot themselves in the foot, and it will not surprise me if Microsoft, however, does not sell hardly any Xboxes this holiday season. Like, it's just going to blow my mind. Unless they go back down to like $500 or $550, maybe for Black Friday or something like that. Maybe they'll get like a huge amount of sales, and then at that point they'll sell some, but they're definitely not going to sell a lot. But if they just leave them for the prices that they're going to be, like $650 for just the standard disk drive Series X, and the 2TB being $800, it's just like, dog, nobody's not even going to pick those up. Like, nobody is not going to buy any Xbox hardly this holiday season, except maybe a few thousand people, and that'll pretty much be it. But that's where, even right now, before most likely Sony does in the future raises their prices again, that is where the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 5 Pro still hold value. Now, like I said, I don't support like any sorts of prices going up on consoles, especially with current gen consoles. Like I said, they're both going to be turning 5 years old this coming up November, both the PlayStation 5 systems and the Series X and S consoles. Like the PS5 launched on November 12th, 2020, and the Xbox Series consoles launched on November 10th, just basically 2 days before the PlayStation 5s did. So pretty much the 10th and the 12th is when these consoles are going to fully hit 5 years being out on the market. And now we're talking a $200 price increase of the Series X 2TB. Then you got $150 on the standard disk drive 1TB black Xbox Series X, and then $100 for a regular 512GB Xbox Series S. So honestly, even then, I don't support this, like I said, in any means, but the Xbox Series S still in a way kind of holds its value in a way, even though I don't support it going up. But now you're talking like $250 to get an Xbox Series S than getting a Series X. And probably something in my throat there. So probably even more is what I was trying to say, even with freaking taxes and all that stuff. Now, there's been reports that it is because of the tariffs as to why the prices are going up. But Microsoft is actually a $1 trillion company. Like, they could legit sell the Series X at $400 and the Series S probably at $200, and they would probably start selling more consoles than the PlayStation 5 and even the Nintendo Switch 2, however, even though they're always going to be selling like nothing. And like I expect Nintendo is going to follow suit too with the Switch 2 in sometime early 2026 and early next year. So I don't support this no matter what the odds are. And honestly, it's kind of crazy. I actually got a friend who actually supports this, and I've literally called him out on it. He just thinks that it's like, all because of chips and all that stuff. Well, not really necessarily chips, but more so like just saying, oh, it happens, this and that. But it has never happened with a console generation, ever. Every console generation before the current gen that we've ever had, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, have all those consoles had price decreases within the first 3 years after being out on the market with a slim model. Like if you look back at the PlayStation 3, it got dropped to half the price from the launch PS3. It went from $600 to $300 with the slim model. And then I think with the super slim model, it went down to $250. Now, I could be wrong about the PS3 super slim, but I do know that going from the fat PS3 to the slim, it was a substantial decrease in price. It went from $600 from the big fat boy to $300 for the slim. And then the same thing with the Xbox 360. As far as I know, it came out for $400, and then you had the Xbox 360 Slim that came out, I think, for $250 or $300. I'm not for sure on that, but I do know that the Xbox 360 Slim also was a cheaper, more alternative Xbox 360, and then the same thing happened with the PlayStation 2. So every console generation that we have had before the current gen systems that we're in have had a console decrease in price with a slim model. But this is not looking very good right now. And like I said, I expect Sony's going to do the same thing. I hope they don't, because even though they still hold the value for both a regular PlayStation 5 and a PlayStation 5 Pro, like if you decide to go with PlayStation, like look at it like this. You're saving $100 if you get a regular PlayStation 5 with a disc drive, as well as the digital edition from the Digital Series X, and then the PlayStation 5 Pro, you're also going to be saving also $50 more than you would get with the Series X 2TB. Now, I know there's going to be some people that are probably going to be like, well, the disc drive is included with the Series X. Yes, however, you're going to be getting a much better console with the PlayStation 5 Pro. More power, same amount of storage, and just better overall looking and performing games. Now, like I said, I don't support prices going up at any console. So, even though Sony just recently raised its prices, I still don't support it. I personally think that these consoles literally should just stick to the normal price points. Honestly, I bet if they did that, a lot of people would not be complaining and they would still be selling. But right now with Microsoft, with the Series X not selling whatsoever, and then now just being the more expensive console, yeah, I really just don't think Microsoft's going to be selling hardly any Xboxes whatsoever. Especially last year in 2024, they only sold a whopping somewhere between 2 to 3 million consoles, like in the whole year of 2024. This, I bet you, they may just not even barely sell 100,000. So yeah, it's going to really bite these companies in the ass when they literally legit don't start selling any stock whatsoever. And then companies are just eventually like Walmart, Best Buy, Target, they're just going to see all the Series X's that are just leaving sitting there not selling. They're probably eventually just going to be like, okay, dog, we're just going to get rid of these because nobody's not buying them. They're just taking up, storage in our facility. We're not going to do it. And that's what I think could very well happen. Man, oh man. And then the worst part of it is you got games that come out broken, buggy, unfinished, unpolished, unoptimized. Not all games, but a good portion of them. So at the end of the day, like, why would you pay $800 for a system, or $650 for a system that's literally 5 years old with no upgrades, compared to like something like the PS5 Pro, and games just in general like just coming out broken and not finished whatsoever and just unplayable? Yeah, the gaming industry is legit. The gaming industry is not looking very bright right now, and I do not support this in any means necessary. Now, if the Xbox Series X and S maybe like went up, like the Series S possibly went up $25 and the Series X maybe just went up $50, then it'd be a little bit more acceptable to a decent good bit of audience, rather than $150 to $200 for like the regular Series X. But even then, I think that the consoles should have just stayed their normal price, and honestly, I think that they could have just been fine with that, because everything's getting cheaper eventually, and with the tariffs and all that, they could have just possibly just kept the consoles at the main normal price points from launch, and even then, it would honestly not look that bad on them, because they didn't raise prices, but yet they didn't decrease prices at all, which would be a little bit odd, but it would at least look somewhat better on all companies, all sides of them. Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. It would have looked fine. But we're living in a world that now console generations are just going to go up in price, and wait till you see it. The PlayStation 5s and the Nintendo Switch 2 are going to be next, and they possibly will be coming probably beginning of 2026. So, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you could, smack that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and be sure to leave us a comment down in the comment section down below of your thoughts of Microsoft raising prices of its consoles yet again, not even 4 months later, and how ridiculous is these new prices of being $650 for the regular Series X, and then now the 2 terabyte being $800, $200 more than its original MSRP price point. Let us know in the comment section down below of what you think about Microsoft raising prices of its consoles yet again, not even 4 months later. Subscribe, hit that like button, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.